Hi everybody, old guy here with my dry monotone and my zero production values. Why? 'Cause I'm a writer. I suck at this. Anyway, I know that these are books in a series, and I don't review series except for maybe the first book or a good one within it, just to give you an idea if it's one worth pursuing. I don't usually review two books at a time either, unless there's some kind of tie-in or you can't read one without the other. But we're going to have an exception here because one of these books actually ends the series and the other starts a brand new one. Babylon's Ashes is book 6 of the Expanse series, and Persepolis Rising is book 7. So it might seem this is a one without the other scenario, but that's not the case. You could actually read Persepolis without any reference to the previous 6 books, although I think you'd have a hard time trying to piece together the world that they've built, unless you've watched the TV series. As some of you or most of you know, I am a huge fan of that series. Thought it was tremendous, one of the best treatments of science fiction themes and tropes since Battlestar Galactica. The Olmos one, not Olmos, O-L-M-O-S. Not the Ben Cartwright one, which I still liked. It's just not as good as the second one. But the last season of The Expanse left me cold and rather distressed, as I explain here. There's things that happened during it that I simply couldn't fathom. It seemed so out of character. Well, turns out I was wrong. Those things that I didn't like in the series did happen in the book, but unlike the series, they were handled quite well and within the character's arc. When I read through the very same events that so annoyed me in the show, I was downright placated. So I guess I can't be too mad at the show, except books and media are two different universes and must be true to themselves. So it is a fault in the media universe that they weren't able to handle these events with more skill. But then again, you've got limited space on a TV show. A novel has the luxury of time and leisure that shows don't. Pick your poison. I'm not going to go into the specific events I referenced, nor how differently the events were handled, because that would be spoilers galore. You can read the gist of it in the post that I referenced, but be warned, it has spoilers galore. That will ruin both the TV show and the book. So what are these books about? Well, Babylon is the climax of the Free Navy's onslaught against Earth and Mars, and its attempt to take over the gates and subsequently all the settled and to-be-settled Ringgate worlds. This all culminates in the epic battle for Medina Station and the rail guns built on the Soul Gate. And wow, just as epic in the novel as it is in the series, maybe even more so because it goes on a lot longer in the book. You'll be very happy to see that Amos remains in character, not like he does in the show. And the heartbreaking death that you see towards the end of the TV series happens to someone else, but is equally heartbreaking. The biggest difference between the book and the show is a character switch. Michio Pa is the main pirate queen in the novel instead of Drummer. And all the things that Drummer does in the series is actually done by Pa. Now, I've always been a big drummer fan and was leery of Pa, but she did all right, and has now been elevated in the Expanse pantheon, at least as far as I'm concerned. If you've seen the show, then you'll recognize Pa as somewhat of a minor character who does some pretty good things for drummer. But that ain't the way it is in the novel. I really don't know why they made the switch. Except I do. Drummer becomes a really big deal in the Persepolis novel, pretty much the savior of the inner system, as she faces the return of the renegade Martian Navy, which is bent on not only controlling the gates, but controlling all of humanity. Well, say your Siegs, meine Schatzi. The book is set 30 years after the events of Babylon, and as you can imagine, there's been some changes. One of them is that Winston Duarte, the dictator wannabe of the human race, has been experimenting with the proto-molecule he stole from Fred Johnson to make himself immortal and to create a class of battleships and fighters that are truly terrifying and pretty much invincible, as Drummer will find out. Duarte has been using prisoners to develop his proto-molecule techniques with the help of everyone's favorite sociopath, Cortazar. Such lovely people. The space battles are epic and somewhat bizarre with the proto-molecule's help. You do see some of the old characters, including Christian Avasarala, who is really old by this time. Who isn't? But she's still as foul-mouthed and insightful a character as we all loved and respected. Bobby is here, badass as ever. And yes, James and Naomi, who are going to have a major lifestyle change. And this book, the Persepolis one, breaks the series in half, because from this point forward, it is no longer near-Earth sci-fi, which we used to call mundane sci-fi. You know, events set about 100 and 150 years in the future with sciences limited to the solar system. Now, with Persepolis, we are into full-blown space opera from the point forward. And yes, the action still occurs in the solar system, but now we have advanced aliens and advanced alien technologies and thousands of new worlds, and this becomes galactic, not nearby. It feels completely different than everything that went before, despite including most of the previous characters, and in my opinion signals a whole new direction. Can't wait to read the next two and see where we're going. Old guy here. See you later. Oh, by the way, I'm going to be out of pocket for a while. Trips, family things. If you don't hear from me in a couple months, call the cops.